Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Griil. Paul Sebastiani, Adrian Deha. A very, very good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever or whenever you're listening. We're here to do it all again, my friend. Last week we had some interesting results in the football gather round over in Adelaide, which we will have a chat about. Yes, we'll go through the gather round wrap up, not just from an on-field, but an off-field perspective too. Bit of booing going on in the crowd as well. That's reared its head again. People are entitled to do what they do, but we'll get onto that too. Jason Horne-Francis is a big discussion topic with regards to that. Richmond FC, Carlton FC, probably two of the biggest clubs in the league, and two of the most disappointing results over the weekend. And I've got a bit of a bugbear to have a chat about as well, about stats and numbers in the AFL. And then it's a round 6 preview, Anzac Day weekend.
Yeah, extended round, Paul. So round kicks off obviously on Friday this week and ends next Tuesday. Yeah,
all right, 4 or 5 day backups for both.
I do like the setup with the Anzac Day weekend. You know, the game on the Monday, the Anzac Day Eve. Which is a night game. It's becoming an annual fixture now, and the usual Anzac Day between Collingwood and Essendon.
We get the Anzac Day Guernseys as well, which are nice. There was
a good look. A few interesting ones there.
Indeed. Shall we? Well, let's get on to gather round, shall we? Now, this is a really interesting one because I think, and when I was on air when it was announced a couple of months ago before the season started, I think everyone had what we call the Simon Zara moment. Everyone did here we go.
The eye roll.
Yeah, the eye roll. Another PR moment for the AFL. It's just another fad. They're trying to copy the NRL with the magic round and all this sort of stuff. And we get it, but is it really going to be a success? I think it was a resounding success.
They would have only copied them if it was exactly the same. I think they bettered what the NRL did.
I completely agree.
They're miles ahead of what the NRL did.
And you did say the AFL's in a good space.
They are. Very, very good spot.
What do you make of it?
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. I was actually going to head over, but tickets to our game were sold out. But
Shock.
I do have intentions to go next year off the success of what we saw on the weekend. I did enjoy the country sort of scene, them going to Norwood, them going to Mount Barker. I think the AFL got it right with the certain games that were fixtured at those particular grounds.
Spot on.
And then obviously you had on Saturday and Sunday you had the two games on the backup. So, the 4:40 game on Saturday into the Port Adelaide and Bulldogs game, and then on Sunday you had the Geelong West Coast game into the Collingwood St Kilda game, which I thought was game of the round. I envisaged it to be game of the round, and I don't think it let anyone down.
No, I don't think it did either.
What did you make of it?
Funny, I think it was funny to note that out of the three best games of the round, mentioning Collingwood St Kilda, the other two were probably the Giants and Hawthorn, and then Fremantle and Gold Coast. So both of those were played at Norwood.
Norwood,
it's funny how that worked out too.
Maybe the smaller or the alleged a lot of people were trying to push the fact that Norwood was a relatively smaller ground.
The dimensions of the ground.
Maybe the dimensions of the ground bought the games a bit more even, potentially. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to run some statistics behind it, but yeah, possibly.
I think it was a brilliant success. And I think it's one of those ones now where, as you just said, I'm going to go next year.
Yeah,
it seems to be one of those.
I want to make a whole weekend out of it. And I think a lot of supporters should.
Yeah.
If you get an opportunity and you have a chance to go, I think it'd be awesome. And they've announced that they've locked it in for the next 3 years.
Yeah, to 2026.
So well done to the AFL, Gill and his team, and also the South Australian Premier, who's been a massive supporter of it, Peter Malinauskas. That's a big vote of confidence.
He's a passion merchant, that bloke.
Yeah.
Proper passion merchant.
I enjoyed listening to his speech. I listened to all of his interviews on Fox Footy and radio. He's good.
I don't get involved in that political kind of stuff and all that, but he actually is very well spoken, and I think he actually represents
all of them are.
That state. Yeah, exactly. Most of them. I think he represents the state pretty well.
Yeah,
I think he's represented them with great aplomb over the last couple of weeks. So
completely agree with that.
There are going to be some knockers to it, but from what I've seen, I reckon the majority are really, really happy with how it all was planned out and how it all went.
Absolutely.
Some teams are not happy, obviously, which we'll get into. Well,
I think we just quickly before we finish on this topic, we did mention how the Essendon-Melbourne game, if that was played at the MCG,
well,
there is a possibility that
naturally.
they could have got, you know, 60,000 plus.
Correct.
And the Collingwood-St Kilda game, I can tell you now, that was played at the G.
Yeah.
They probably would have got 70,000 plus, given how both teams are going. I suppose, look, that's an argument for another day. I'm sure the AFL would have, you know, given both of those, all four of those clubs a relatively handsome pay packet in exchange for their games in Adelaide. But yeah.
You take the hit, I think with
you
regards
do
to that as well. I also think there was another not subplot, but another. I think there was another success that came outside of Gather Round as well, but it was to do with it. Is that local footy had a bit of a surge on the weekend as well around other states in Victoria as well. So I think
correct,
because there was no
no
actual
AFL in Victoria.
The local crowds.
There's a few people on Twitter pumping that up.
Which is really good.
If you get a chance,
I love my
you're not
local
doing
sports,
anything, mate.
It's fantastic.
Go out to your local club.
Local
Go
sport,
and support them.
Mate, it's the best. I think it's fantastic. So I think, success all round. I think they've even had a local football's been the byproduct, and the pump for that has been a byproduct of this gather round. So
agreed.
2026, South Australia gets to keep it. Where they go to next, who knows? Maybe Tassie.
There might be a team in Tasmania by then.
That could be the way they do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a wriggle on, shall we? Now, you wanted to make mention of some crowd behaviour on the weekend. Enlighten us, sir.
Yeah, no, it's been well publicised, obviously, what happened with Jason Horne-Francis at that game on Adelaide Oval on Saturday night against the Bulldogs.
So strange.
And it was actually really, really funny. Like, we need to realise that it was a Port Adelaide home game.
I know. What happened?
I want to know who was booing him. Like, what's going on there? Like, look, he is always going to be subject to a lot of criticism.
Of course.
Most, let's put it, as most number one draft picks will or have been in the past. He probably is just getting it a lot more due to obviously how he exited, circumstances behind his arrival at Port Adelaide and how it all went down, and the media and how much publicity they've actually given him. I just think, you know, there was a lot of debate on Monday on Talkback and all that sort of stuff about, you know, why people are booing him. Should we booing him? Do you have any thoughts on it? What do you think?
That doesn't really faze me, to be honest. People pay their money to get in. They can say what they want, I guess. But as long as they're not obviously.
I mean, I can tell you now.
There's a line.
I'm very certain that there's been a lot more unsavoury things done at a crowd than booing someone.
I know, I agree.
You know, there's probably been a lot more choice words exchanged.
I think so. There are some we could probably say, but there are some we probably couldn't say.
Yeah, A-firm, correct.
I think it's actually funny now. On the other podcast and show that I do with the Jumper Punch, the guy I do with Rocco, a good friend of mine, shout out to Rocco, hello mate. He actually said, he goes like, what? He goes like, that's like what 3-year-olds who like, boo, boo.
Like I don't understand.
People are childish sometimes too. Like I think context is an interesting thing too in those situations because I've done it before. I've booed before.
I don't recall booing anyone.
I'll put my hand up and say I've booed. The only time there were 2 times I booed at a game. One, Fremantle Carlton a few years ago when it was like 70-6 at halftime.
Yep.
Booed them off. Is that deservedly so?
No, I think that's booing a team. We're talking about targeting individuals.
Look, again.
Harry Mackay got booed on Thursday night.
I did. What was all that about?
Because he got off. You're
kidding me.
I assume that's what it was.
I reckon that's probably what it was as well.
I mean, a couple of years ago, I don't want to bring it up, but Scott Pendlebury won the Anzac Day medal, and Essendon supporters are booing him.
And Buckley had a dip at them as well.
I mean, like, come on. I mean, Jack Ginnivan last year in that late game against Sydney in the regular season, he was. He was sitting on the bench and his face came up on the screen at the SCG. And they were booing him. And he's got his jacket on there with that little grin looking up in his eyes like this. And he's smiling. And I'm sitting there going, mate, I love you. I absolutely love everything about
I think it's how the player
handle it.
How the player deals with it.
And also as well, just quickly on that, I was watching that game on Saturday night and I saw Ken Hinkley go out and, the TV's obviously made sure to show Ken Hinkley going over to Jason Horne-Francis.
Of course they did.
And I thought that is so powerful.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful
He
moment.
did
They had just won the game.
Yeah.
He had a very good game as well.
Last quarter.
12
Stood
touches?
up, yeah.
12 touches
He
in the
was
last?
one of the reasons they took control in the last term.
So, I mean, look, for anyone who does want to boo players, like, I mean, we're not anyone to tell you what to do and what not to do, but
They're not
you just, and you know, you make your own choice, I suppose.
They're not strangers to it. I would be...
The players do get paid enough to be professionals.
Oh, of course,
So,
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
suppose there has to be...
I view those things as a term of endearment. If someone is going out of their way to try and distract you, it means that
just on that, do you know who I used to fucking hate?
Who?
Matthew Lloyd. And it was because and it was back in the day when Brett Thornton used to play on him.
Shout out to Lauder.
Yeah, Matthew Lloyd, I fucking hated him. And the reason was because he always used to smash us and he was too good.
See, exactly.
That was the only reason. Yeah,
exactly.
I just recalled that.
It's a term of endearment.
Yeah, he was just too good for us.
I reckon it was either in the soccer. I think Frank Lampard or John Terry in England, and I think this is
a different level.
This is a great comparison because
it's a different level. There's levels to this.
And I think when you look at crowds in Australia and people go, "Oh, geez, it's intimidating."
No, it's not. It's
What?
actually
a
not.
couple of floggers in a cheer squad,
it's
people
not.
clapping in a few.
I mean,
boos.
if anyone does get a chance to go overseas and watch some international
Go to
sport,
Europe.
You'll see what a crowd's
I think
like.
it was either Frank Lampard or John Terry, one of the Chelsea boys. It was, I think, against West Ham. I think it would have been Frank Lampard because Frank Lampard played at West Ham.
No, it would have been John Terry's family are all West Ham supporters.
Oh, there you go. Would have been.
Yeah.
It was one of the. It was one of the
And
two.
Lampard, I think,
As a junior. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
West Ham away, Bay, giving it to his family, to his wife, to his sister, to his blah blah. And I think it was Frank Lampard. I think Chelsea ended up winning the game. Pardon me. And he came out post game. They asked him, the media picked up that your family was abused with these chants and all that, and he just laughed it off. He goes, just basically as part of the course. He goes, I just use it as motivation.
Motivation,
to play.
yeah.
I scored a goal. I scored the winner. Away you go. That's how you respond.
I mean, look,
That's how you respond. Everyone's different,
and that's true.
Everyone's different.
I mean, Horn Francis is 19 years old.
He is.
Jack Ginnivan in that instance is a second year player. Last year was a first year player. It's good to see that their clubs are supporting them as long as,
of course. Well,
I
so
think
they should.
Yeah,
So they should.
I think there's always room for a bit of banter as long as we don't cross that line.
Yeah.
You know the line I'm talking about. We
Yes,
don't want any
course.
racism. We don't want any of that.
Yep.
We don't want any personal remark. I mean, look, there is a line I think that needs to be honoured.
Yep.
And yeah, I think I enjoy the banter. I think it's part of it. I remember. I watch a lot of the NBA, and I saw Draymond Green yesterday.
What's he done now?
In game 2, that
done now?
Kings game? You have to watch it. I don't want to talk about it too much. But I found the entertainment, and that's what it's about. He riled up the crowd, and I don't mind the crowd. When someone's having a shot at goal on the boundary, and then the player nails the goal and they're giving it. I love it. I love it. The old Martin Pike giving it, giving him the finger, mate. It's all part of the game as long as we keep it within the limits.
Yeah, of course.
I think there's always room for
all
it.
within context.
Yeah.
All within context. Oh, that's good. Good discussion. Good discussion. Let's get a wriggle on as well. Speaking of castbookie.com, teams that are absolutely gone. Richmond Football Club. They are they dead and buried? Would seem that way.
I have had and you're well aware of this.
Yes.
I've been very, very keeping an eye on and very, very critical of Richmond since I saw them in round 1 against Carlton.
They had every conceivable chance to win.
They did. I'm concerned about where they are.
Yep.
I'm not so concerned about where they're going to be. I just think for the time being, I'll have a look at some of the people on that list and the way they're doing things, blooding all these young kids, and rightfully so, because a lot of their core and a lot of that premiership window has definitely sailed.
Yep.
But players like Dustin Martin, players like Jack Riewoldt, players like Trent Cotchin, Toby Nankervis, Dylan Grimes, Nick Vlaston to
Twilight of their career.
Twilight of their career. Like I saw some statistics about Dylan Grimes, one-on-one. He's rated as one of the worst 3 defenders.
Is he really?
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe who the other 2 are, one-on-one. Darcy Moore and Jake Lever are the other 2, by the way, which will surprise a lot of people, which is why you notice both those players don't play on a man. They both play loose.
They're the intercept types.
Correct, but just heading back to Richmond, what a Herculean effort. I know we've mentioned how he's coming towards the twilight of his career. A very Herculean effort by Jack Griil.
Oh, God.
To come out and to stamp his foot on the game.
80 staples in his head.
Yeah, that was really good, very good, and that's the sort of player he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Trent Cotchin get subbed off on Friday.
He sucked it up.
Yeah, I'm going to make a call here. I'm going to give it till round. I'm going to say round 13 or 14, and he'll be doing a lap of honour for his retirement. I think it's circumstantial to how Richmond's year is going. I think by round 14 or round 15, players like Dylan Grimes and Trent Cotchin, those two in particular, Jack Griil, what I think we'll see out there because that they're going to need him because of Lynch.
Yes,
Lynch is out. I think he may be given a little bit more slack.
Yep.
I do believe, we'll make a bold statement, I believe Trent Cotchin, Dylan Grimes will both be retired by round 15 the latest.
There you go. Okay. Yep. And I think that would almost signify the Tigers season.
And look, done. it's not all dead and buried for Richmond. There might be a bit of short-term pain. I don't think they're going to go as bad or bottoming out as bad as what Hawthorn are.
Okay,
I mean, the difference is Richmond over the last 2 years has been slowly drip feeding
tapering
their
off
kids.
Yeah. And
well.
tapering
We're
off
talking
as well,
about your Sonsies, your Mansells, your Ralph Lauren Smith.
Yeah.
I like Hugo Ralph Lauren. Is it Ralph Lauren Smith?
Yeah.
Hugo Ralph Smith.
Hugo Ralph Smith.
Good player. All these young kids that they're drip feeding. Samson Ryan's now in that team.
Looks a good player. That
he will be a good player. He can use his eyes.
Bolton will lead that club.
Shea Bolton.
Yeah, he'll lead that.
Oh well, not with some of the some of the shithousery that he was doing.
Oh
on the
no,
weekend.
not as in like an official leadership role, but he'll be the player that I think
he'll be the guy that they build around.
100%.
Yeah, but look, I think this year their season's lost. I don't want to. I am going to write them off. I think they're done. I think they'll be.
I think so as well.
I think they're done.
But I think you're right in saying that it doesn't mean that they're done as a club.
No, they're
for
not.
The next
they're not.
10
And
years
I'm very
like
certain.
That.
I'm very certain the Richmond board will be well aware of that.
Of course.
I mean, they've got very, very good operators there. We don't need to mention that. Brendan Gale, very good. Love Brendan Gale.
Yep.
But him and his crew are doing a wonderful job, and I think they recognise where they are as a club.
Yes.
And Dimmer in some of his press conferences and some of his lead up, like he's a very outspoken character, and I actually love that. I love listening to Damien Hardwick. He says it how it is. He's not scared. He's not worried about the ramifications. He just says what's on his mind. And I think there would be an element of something in his mind to suggest to him that look, we may maybe 12 to 24 months worth of pain.
Looks like
but I do think they will be back to where they were in their triple premiership days very, very shortly. I just think this year's, I think they can almost kiss it by.
I think there's a fair argument to make regarding that as well. But I reckon this year they might have gone, just looking at their draft and what they did, they might have gone all, because they gave away those picks for Hopper and Taranto.
Kane Corns harps on about it. They sold their future for two players, but those two players,
only one draft.
Those two players basically need a bit of time. Like the Richmond way, everyone speaks about it. It is a thing, and you can't expect it to click after 5 games.
Of course.
But those two midfielders, I mean, they factored in that, Cotchin's on the out. Dustin Martin,
100%.
Dustin Martin's not a midfielder anymore. So they've supplemented their midfield with these two, highly touted players from
in their mid-20s. What have they got, another 5 or so, 5 to 6 years
5
left,
to 7
which
years
is perfect.
minimum. So I mean, look, it's not all lost for Richmond, but as I said, this year I think you can just cancel them.
I think that's a fair point as well. But again, as you said, and as we said, it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
If that makes sense.
Agreed.
The other team
Carlton.
that we are, there are some serious question marks now over Carlton. They were horrendous on Thursday night. It was not great to watch if you're a Carlton man like I am with my allegiance. It was pretty pitiful.
Yeah, that was bad. That was deplorable.
It was.
They should have stayed on the tarmac, mate. I'm serious, mate.
I know.
I was absolutely irate.
It was
obviously, you and I are both mad Carlton supporters. We watch the game. We dissect them. We're both fair judges, in my opinion. I think so. When they're there, when they're due for a rap, we're happy to give them a rap. When they're due for a clip, we'll more likely give them a clip.
And
as far as I'm concerned, that game on Thursday night was a shit show.
Yeah.
It was absolute shit. It was a shit show.
Yeah,
they should have stayed on the tarmac and gone back home.
It was what we call here, or what I call the Adrian Deha theory.
They were disinterested. They were disinterested. They did not rock up, right? I'm going to say that they planned the whole week that Mitch McGovern was never going to play.
I concur with you on that.
I guarantee they've planned the whole week that he was not going to play. You know, they end up winning the clearances. They end up winning the inside 50s. Usage inside their ball usage inside their 50 was horrible.
Horrific.
And again, we said this last week. Their defence is number 2 in the comp. Their forward line is number 2 in the comp. What the concern with Carlton was, and it was made obvious, was the transition and the pressure from our Carlton's midfielders on the opposition ball carrier.
Yeah.
And Adelaide literally walked through us.
They did.
Adelaide literally walked through Carlton.
First quarter
and
was
it was just ridiculous. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch.
First quarter was nothing short of deplorable. Leaders not standing up. Credit to Adelaide. They were great
Absolutely.
on the night. They
I don't
were
want to take anything from Adelaide because, I mean,
they're on a roll at the moment.
Yeah,
the Crows.
and they're playing hard, very, very hard contested footy. And what they end up winning, they won the contested possession
Plus
by
26.
26.
Plus 26.
That's a battering.
Yeah, it's
They
an
got
absolute
battered.
smashing.
Carlton got battered.
As much as Adelaide are a story out of that, the story from the game is Carlton
I agree.
failing on that type of big stage in inverted commas again. And my concern with the Blues is the messaging out of the club as well. Oh, we've never won at Adelaide Oval. That was in the preview.
Who
from the
cares?
club.
Who cares, mate? Who cares?
It's a patch of grass with 4 goalposts on it.
For fuck's sake,
Oh,
no
you know,
one cares
the
you haven't won at that ground.
The crowd. What
crowd?
They sing the theme song and clap when the player comes out, when the players come out. Is that intimidating, is it?
Like, come on.
That's a worrying sign for me. The mentality of the players.
Has any player, sorry to interrupt, has any player or anyone from the club come out in the media on a separate press conference and addressed what happened on Thursday? I'm not speaking about Michael Voss's 6-minute or
After
10-minute
the game.
I'm not talking about any of that. Has anyone else after that?
Nick Newman did.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It wasn't, not great.
Once again, we said this last week. We said it a few weeks ago about the Bulldogs having an opportunity to make a statement and make it right against Brisbane, and they ended up beating Brisbane.
Yes, correct.
Carlton, which we'll get into in the preview.
Yep.
For round 6, Carlton do have an opportunity to make a statement.
Huge opportunity
against St Kilda, who are not going to be pushovers.
No.
But look, the silver lining in regards to Carlton and how their season's going at this stage is that it was early in the season. And if you are going to cop one of those losses and one of those, we'll call it a lesson because that's what it was. It was an absolute lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably want it to happen in round 5 as opposed to round 15 or 16. So
I think there is also. I think every team that's currently in the 8, if you look at it, has had a stinker so far. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sydney had a stinker against
Melbourne.
Against Melbourne, they were shocking. Even the loss against Port Adelaide was poor.
They should have won that.
Melbourne on the weekend against Essendon as well.
We've spoken about Melbourne. It's a mentality thing for them.
Correct.
They're so frustrating.
Collingwood had a stinker against Brisbane. Brisbane have had 2 stinkers. You know, so it seems that the only team that hasn't is St Kilda.
Yeah,
maybe they're due this weekend. I don't know. I don't think so. Under Ross the Boss, which we'll go to in the preview shortly.
Percentage 144.
It is 144.
I don't like that number.
Yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
Now I want to get on just before we get on to the round 6 preview.
Yeah.
Now this actually
stats. Yeah. What's going on?
You
weren't happy when we discussed this off air.
God almighty. I just like David King. Now he works with us, and I love Kingy.
Kingy,
too.
just for the record,
I love him as well.
I think he's the best, in my opinion, humble opinion. I think he's the best analyst in the media. But anyway, I think
I'll politely disagree
with
that. I do like him though.
Yeah.
I do like him though. That's that. He came up with the quarters 1 stat the other day, and I just rolled my eyes. Like, quarters 1, really? Oh, quarters 1, this team's won this many quarters and this team's won this many quarters and blah, 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 blah. Like, if you're going to use a number like quarters 1, you've got to contextualize it.
Yep.
Right.
So what's your issue with it?
My issue is a team wins 3 quarters of a game and loses by 60 points. It's possible.
It is.
So
I'm not sure how that's
the
not
idea
possible,
is that, the more quarters won, the better a team is.
Right? No. I mean, I don't.
Is it control on a game?
I don't entirely agree
think
with that.
it's, and this is the theory, and I like to go back to racing. Horse Winks, right? For 3 quarters of her race, she wasn't in front. How far did she win her races by?
It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. There has to be context behind the numbers, right?
So in regards
That's my frustration.
In regards to what you heard and what you're referring your argument to, was it a case of he mentioned
two things.
Yeah, tell
two
me.
things.
I want to hear it.
Quarters 1 equals control. Quarters 1 equals your team is sort of on the way up, and I completely disagree because quarters one. Quarters one,
no.
Say if you win 3 quarters out of 4 and you lose the game, right? And people go, oh, geez, yeah, they control the game. Look how many quarters they've won. What if in those quarters there were 4 or 5 goal swings both ways? You lost the quarter by a point or 2 or a goal or 2, but there was a 4 or 5 goal swing both ways. It's irrelevant. It's actually irrelevant. There's two, and to a certain point, it can be a factor with which you use to determine how a team controls a game, but it's not unilateral.
Sure.
It's not just one factor that you use to determine control on a game. There's so many other factors. You can't just say, oh, yeah, the team won 3 out of 4 quarters. Yeah, they had complete control of the game.
Impossible.
You've got to contextualize it. You've got to
contextualize
contextualize it. And that's the frustrating thing with a lot of analysts, because all these stats and numbers, they can prove a theory of yours up to a certain point. But if you actually dig deeper and actually dig into the surface, like, hang on a minute. And this was the thing as well. Kingy last year, and I don't want to harp on about the Blues, but last year Carlton was stoppage-centric, right?
Yeah. One thing that they haven't been
and
this
everything
year.
everything about the numbers was, they're stoppage-centric. Once they don't score from the stoppage or they don't get a stoppage ascendancy, they can't win. And that's why they're a big doubt to win a flag or they're a big doubt to win anything, right? And now this year's
complete opposite.
This year, they found 3 or 4 other ways to start scoring, which is what Kingy was talking about last season. They've done that, and now he's complaining about the midfield, which I understand. That's part of the game.
You got to understand as
of
well.
Course, I know.
Let's cut everyone a bit of slack. He's adjudicating what he sees on a week-to-week basis.
Of course.
And that in this industry, that's the only way you can critique or you can assess a team.
That's correct.
We can't go back. We can't go back to round 1 and go, Carlton did this, and that in round 1. We can only speak about what they did 3 or 4 days ago.
But if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. You can't say, they need to find other avenues to score. Then they find it. Then you pick on, the stoppage. So what is it? What is it? Because if you get all of them together, it's only in essence, it's only one thing that Carlton are missing, and that's why I was bullish on them last week against Adelaide, because they found other ways to win. And my thought process behind that was, okay, well, the numbers are suggesting Carlton are actually doing well because they're finding other avenues to goal at the moment. They get a few players back in the midfield. They get Walsh back, blah, blah, blah. Kennedy back in. I thought, geez, okay, well, might all connect this weekend, the stoppage. But it didn't. Clearly it didn't. They were well beaten at the contest. But I think, again, just back on stats and numbers, you've got to contextualise them. You can't just say, quarters one. It means the team's in full control of a game.
My theory with statistics and numbers in this day and age is a lot of people use them to back up their argument.
That's
because
correct.
Without statistics, as Jared Healy says, you're just a flog with an opinion.
Well, that's exactly right.
And
it's true. You need evidence to back up your point.
You do, but
otherwise, where's the validity to your claim?
The numbers and statistics in a particular game are not everything.
Exactly, small sample size.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're 5 rounds in,
exactly
6 rounds this weekend. I think it's hard, and what I do want to introduce just quickly on this show later on in the year is a power rankings type.
Okay,
the reason why I don't think it's relevant to introduce it now is because it's going to fluctuate.
100%.
I mean,
so volatile.
We're 5 rounds in.
So volatile.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, Brisbane are sitting 8th.
Yeah.
Melbourne are sitting 6th or 7th.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's hard. St Kilda are on top. Do we really think
Melbourne
St
are
Kilda
premiership favourite and they're 6th?
And they're 6th. Like, I mean, look, let's look. We're happy, as I said, we're happy to assess and judge teams on a week-to-week basis.
Correct.
But consistency, I don't think, can be identified until maybe at least after the bye.
I completely agree.
At least maybe even till Queen's birthday.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Like, we need a bigger sample size to see how teams are going. So,
No, I completely agree with that. I think season to season you can look at it and say, okay, well, they've improved in this area or something like that. But, just, again, numbers, data, evidence, statistics, it needs to all be contextualised, I think. So
absolutely,
statistics only prove the past, not what could potentially happen in the future. So anyway, speaking of the future, round 6, sir. Big games coming up this weekend. Anzac Day.
No Thursday.
Anzac Day.
No game tomorrow.
Thursday. Nope. It's all Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which is the Anzac
Finish
Day
up on Anzac
special.
Day on Tuesday, yeah.
We'll get to that last. Fremantle v the Western Bulldogs, Optus Stadium. Fremantle, the slight favourite in this game. Then it's Port West Coast, Giants, Lions, Cats and the Swans. The Cats, they'll be unveiling their premiership flag to the
First
Swannies.
game at Cardinia Park.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. They've got a few injury concerns, the Cats, that they'll have to be worried about, I think, too. Hawks and Crows, that's an interesting game. Carlton versus St Kilda, the Suns and the Roos. Melbourne versus Richmond. And then it's Anzac Day between Pies and the Bombers, the traditional Anzac Day clash. Let's start with our tips. AD, Fremantle v the Bulldogs at Optus Stadium, sir.
Tough game.
Cheers.
I know Fremantle had a real dogged win against Gold Coast.
They did.
I thought the Bulldogs actually played really well against
I agree.
Power on Saturday. It didn't suit. I know the weather. In my opinion, doesn't. I know. They beat Richmond at the MCG in that greasy sort of game.
Yes.
You know, they challenged Port Adelaide in greasy conditions. I just think Bulldogs are better, as we say, on top of the ground.
Yep.
However, I think I like Fremantle at home. I think they're a completely different opponent at Optus Stadium. I expect Fremantle to be winning it. Close game, but yeah.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you on that. I'm going with the Freo Dockers as well. Port versus West Coast. I think this is a fait accompli.
How far? I mean,
it'll just be a margin, really.
You know, I must admit, like West Coast last week did put a bit more respectability on the scoreboard against
better
the Cats.
value for money, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean they didn't exactly roll over, if that makes sense. Having said that, I think Port Adelaide win by however much they want to win by.
Fixture opens up for the Power the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it does. Really and does. They're 3-2, and they did have the hardest run in the first 5 games.
Correct.
In my opinion.
Yes.
And they've somehow circumnavigated their way out of that. So they're 3-2 now going into this stanza of the season.
Yep.
And yeah, I expect I think Port Adelaide will be winning.
Love it.
Pretty easily.
Giants and the Lions. This might be a little tricky one for the Lions at Manuka Oval.
Yeah, I think it is.
The
I think
Lions
it will
will
be
win,
too.
but I think the Giants can cover the line if you're looking at it from a punting perspective, like
It's
we do.
interesting you say that. A couple of smart guys I know, smart AFL form analysts.
Yes,
they're pretty big on GWS covering the line here as well.
Yep.
I don't know why. I mean, look,
I'm not one of those smarts, I promise.
You're 0 from 2, mate. You're forever indebted. No,
exactly. 2 billion, am I? I think I'm 2 billion down. God, I'm down to half a nation at the moment.
I think, as I said, I think GWS. I mean, I actually expect Brisbane to win.
Yes.
But the people that I know are very, very confident that GWS will be covering the line.
Okay.
Which is 20.5.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep. That seems pretty...
What do you reckon?
It seems pretty big to me, yeah.
Do you think 20.5 is big?
I think it is. For the Giants at Manuka. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they did struggle to beat Hawthorn.
They did, but...
without Harry Himmelberg excellence...
Norwood,
They
got the job done. They got the job. Different setup now. Different setup. And Lions are a bit... I don't know. They're
a bit untrustworthy.
They had a pretty easy kill as well. As I said, I think they will win Brisbane, but I think the Giants will cover the line. I think it'll be that 2 to 3 goal margin. Cats v Swans, GMHBA Stadium. I'm
just the one game this Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm Geelong here. I know they've got injuries, but at home, flag unveiling. It's a pretty important game for them.
Do you know what their record is? I don't have it off the top of my head, but are you aware what's their record at GMHBA Stadium? It's very formidable.
Two words, very good.
Well, I'm just looking at it here. They've won 8 of their last 9 matches at GMHBA.
Yep.
I'm gonna go Sydney.
Sydney. Ooh, okay. Upset. All right. Well, according to the market, it is. Okay.
Who cares about
whatever
the market?
That means. No, I'm with the Cats. I'm sticking with the Cats. An intriguing game down at Utah's. Hawthorn v the Crows. You're going to laugh. I'm actually going to go for an upset here. I think Hawthorn could knock them off.
That's a very bold statement considering how Adelaide played last week.
I reckon Hawthorn can knock them off.
I am a subscriber to the theory or to the thought process that just because you play good one week, it doesn't always
Correct.
transition to the next week. And as we all know, each AFL team matches up differently to others.
They
so,
do.
I mean, just because they match up well this week, it doesn't mean next week their opponent's going to be exactly the same.
Correct.
I'm going to go Adelaide. Hawthorn might trouble them, but I'm very certain when it, I think Adelaide will overcome anything, to be honest.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think Hawthorn can upset the Crows. Carlton v St Kilda. This is arguably the game of the round, 3:20 p.m. prime time, Sunday afternoon at Marvel Stadium. Sell out, apparently, again. No shock because it's a Carlton game. Big one, this one. Voss v Ross. Thoughts, opinions?
My first thought is, honestly, is that Ross Lyon might make Carlton regret the decision of not recruiting him a couple of years ago.
Well,
You asked for my thought. That's the first thing that comes to my head where Ross Lyon might prove
subplots here.
Yeah, there is. Look, I don't see Carlton kicking a winning score against this defence, against the way that St Kilda's set up. I know that the Carlton's got
the team defence.
Yeah, I think Carlton's obviously, it's well documented who they've got up forward. I do think though St Kilda will be ready for them, and I do think the way St Kilda's set up when they don't have the ball, which is my gripe with Carlton, and how the way that they aren't set up when they don't have the ball. I think the way St Kilda do set up when they don't have the ball is a lot more impressive, and I think they're going to provide a lot of headaches for Carlton forward of centre. So when Carlton have the ball moving forward, I think St Kilda will provide them a lot of trouble. I think the two forwards, Mackay and Curnow, might get shut out of this game. And when those two are shut out, I struggle to see where the winning score is going to come from. I think Carlton might need some divine intervention here. Obviously, you're well aware we're both Carlton supporters, but I've backed St Kilda. I'm going to tip St Kilda. And I'm very, very certain that St Kilda will beat Carlton.
Tough to disagree with that, just based on the form of last week. Again, as you said, it is different week to week.
The one thing I will say, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're right.
The one thing I will say is I do think Carlton's midfield will match up slightly better this week, as opposed to last week.
Well,
against
they would
Adelaide.
hope that's the case.
No, I'm very certain that they will. I mean, Adelaide's just got too good of ball users. I don't think so. I mean, St Kilda, which everyone's well aware, they're gonna use the flanks. Adelaide was a lot more direct. With their ball use. I don't know if St Kilda is going to be as punishing as what Adelaide will. But my concern is not St Kilda when they have the ball. My concern for Carlton is when they have the ball and St Kilda don't have the ball. Because I just think the ball movement and the transition, I think Carlton may struggle. But look,
we'll see what happens.
Find out. What do you think?
Will.
What's your assessment?
With the ins and outs, Sard coming out of the Blues really hurts. And I've lent towards St Kilda. But if Mitch McGovern has a fitness test to play this weekend,
whatever that means,
if Mitch McGovern plays, I'll be tipping Carlton.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
If he doesn't, I'm tipping St Kilda.
That's actually a fair point. I've factored in. I'll be honest. I'm factoring in that Mitch McGovern does not play.
Okay.
And I, in my opinion, I believe he will not play.
Okay. All right.
That's my. Yeah.
That's your gut feel. Okay, cool. So that's my state of play. If McGovern plays Carlton, I'll tip by 6 points. If he doesn't, I'll be tipping St Kilda. Suns v North Melbourne.
Who gives a shit?
Heritage Bank Stadium. I think that's a fair point.
Disrespect. Who gives a fuck?
No one's going to be.
I don't care. But look, for the sake of the show, I'm gonna go north.
You're gonna go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go north.
Where
the hell's the joke?
I've tipped the Suns like 4 times.
Where's the joke? I'm going north.
I've tipped the Suns 4 times on this show. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm going to tip them again because they're at home.
Great.
But
you can be loyal to them.
Whatever. Melbourne v Richmond. Melbourne for mine. I think Richmond are done and dusted. Melbourne want to bounce
back. A bit concerned here? We're massive and we speak a lot on how the market sort of reflects a bit of
what's going on, the state of affairs.
Yeah, are you a bit concerned or not concerned? But does it strike you somewhat amazing that Melbourne are $1.30?
As in they're short.
I mean, I think they're leading you on.
Yeah,
Like they did that with Essendon as well.
Maybe.
were-
Melbourne were $1.30 against Essendon, weren't they?
I'm just saying.
I think that was a bit more of a head scratcher than this. I can't remember the last time I've seen Richmond 350.
I don't either.
I can't remember. It's just been a long while.
I think Melbourne win, but you
Be a
just
bit
don't
of a grind,
know.
you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, what's
Poison price.
I haven't looked at the weather, but I mean, if it rain, like
I'll tell you what we'll do on Monday.
with Melbourne, right?
24 and sunny. There
Sunny.
You go.
I know this is a night game. I just think with Melbourne, it's between their ears.
Yep.
That's my big concern. I mean, I mean, when they have everything rolling, they are my clear premiership favourites.
Ben Brown will come in as well, I think. He should be fit, ready to go. I don't really rate him that highly, but just for setup and structure.
For structure. I'm gonna go D's.
Yep.
This honestly, if Richmond don't rock up, and Melbourne do, this could end up being a 10 to 12 goal game.
Yeah, I know exactly.
I'm being serious,
Melbourne have got that
which
in
is
them.
why I'm so concerned about the dollar. I'm not concerned, which is why I'm sort of questioning that $1.30 that $1.30 price tag.
Melbourne have got that.
It could end up being a 10 to 12 goal game.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
No, Melbourne definitely have that in them, as we saw at the G a few weeks ago against the Swans. Final game of the round to finish it all up.
This is the best game of the round.
This is huge. Yeah. Collingwood v Essendon third, v second at the MCG, the Anzac Day clash. Collingwood favourite, Essendon outsider.
Well, there'll be a lot of people saying why we haven't spoken about Essendon. There's a reason. I mean, I respect what they're doing, but let's not get carried away. Yeah, you beat Melbourne, but I mean, to be honest, that game told me more about Melbourne.
Yeah.
Essendon games are chaotic.
Yeah.
Right? Essendon score they score the easiest, but they also concede the easiest. Like, we need and Collingwood, if Essendon decide to turn the ball over and decide to open themselves
Good
up,
night, Irene.
Collingwood's going to slaughter them.
Yep.
I don't care who they've got in or out. Collingwood will take them to the cleaners.
I think it says it all, really. Even with the Collingwood outs, they're still...
Well, Zach Merritt's out, so my bet on Brownlow Zach's out the window.
Yeah.
The betting provider has already got rid of it from. It's out of the bet slip. They've already resulted. They've resulted it as a loss.
They haven't weighted it. See you later.
No, I can't claim it on tax.
They've written it off. Collingwood just. Be a good game.
Yeah. Again, market says it all. But I'm going to go Collingwood pretty comfortable. I reckon Collingwood by 4 goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful.
Essendon might get humbled. I think Essendon will get humbled.
Okay.
Not as in they're going to get smashed. I think they might just do the
level. Find the level.
They might just,
level.
just calm it down a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think they found their level against St Kilda. I think when they versed St Kilda in that heritage game,
yes.
albeit they kicked cheap,
of course,
2-3 goal junk. I think Collingwood might just humble them.
Yep. Okay. I like it. All right. That's a wrap for the round 6 preview. So just to recap, I'm Dockers against Bulldogs, Port against the Eagles, Lions against the Giants, but I think the Giants at the line are a great bet. Geelong to beat the Swans, Hawks to beat the Crows. That's my upset of the round.
Yep.
Carlton if Mitch McGovern plays. If not, St Kilda. Suns to beat North and Melbourne to beat Richmond and Collingwood to beat Essendon. Yours, just to recap.
Bulldogs. Oh, sorry, no. Fremantle, Port Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney upset of the week against the Cats.
Yep.
Adelaide to beat the Hawks, St Kilda to beat Carlton, North to beat Gold Coast.
Yep.
Melbourne to beat Richmond and Pies to beat Essendon.
Love it, AJ. Love it.
Great.
All right, that's a wrap, sir.
It
is. Where can they find us on the socials? Like,
everywhere.
Subscribe, everywhere.
Yeah, YouTube.
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
We make sure we put it up there on the bottom of the screen. So,
yes.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback.
Give us some feedback.
Yeah,
and I want to open up, this is a bit impromptu, but send us in some questions.
Yeah, why not?
Let's engage the audience as well. Let's get some audience feedback and some audience questions in, and we'll venture to have them answered next week on next week's show. So hope your teams win this weekend. Hope you've enjoyed listening, and we will be back next week, sir.
Do it all over again.
Bye for now.
Thank you.